35-years-old man-child. There is a man or a woman who has fully grown up, but deep inside, their needs are unfulfilled. Whenever something goes wrong, they creep into the darkest pits and become children, a defense mechanism that gets activated immediately. These 35-year-old men or women consider themselves artists or megalomaniacs, power lovers but lack real power, wisdom, or art. They are the eternal children who will remain so forever, perpetually. They don't know this, and this becomes a tragedy. This is not a new phenomenon. Rather, it dates back to ancient times, and to this day, people are still eternal adolescents. What happens in their mind and the psychology behind it is fascinating to know about. The term puer aeternus translates from Latin to eternal boy, and is first mentioned in the Metamorphoses, a work by the Roman poet Ovid. In this text, the child god Iacchus is praised for his role in the Eleusinian Mysteries, a series of initiations associated with Greek goddesses. These mysteries are considered the most famous secret religious rites of ancient Greece. In subsequent eras, this child god became synonymous with Bacchus and the god Eros, symbolizing life, death, and resurrection as the deity of divine youth. Later, Swiss psychiatrist and psychologist Carl Jung reintroduced the mythological term puer aeternus during his exploration of the psychology of eternal youth and the creative child within each person. The corresponding Latin term for femiles is puella aeterna. This term functions as an archetype, a foundational structural element of the psyche, with both positive and negative aspects. While it can infuse adult life with childhood's energy, beauty, and creativity, it can also hinder self-realization, resulting in unrealistic adolescent fantasies and a perception of life as a constraining space. Because man and woman see the world from the eyes of the world, the irony punishes them. The archetype of eternal youth, closely linked to the mother archetype, represents the initial experience in life and maintains significance throughout one's existence. Individuals embodying the puer or puella archetype resist individuation, opposing their internal drive towards psychological wholeness. Despite possessing a rich inner life and a vivid imagination, they grapple with bringing it into consciousness, hindering personal development. This kind of reality is shown in the movie The Matrix, where the protagonist Neo faces a choice between a red pill, symbolizing harsh reality, and a blue pill, representing blissful ignorance. The pure often chooses the blue pill, avoiding the challenges of self-realization. In her book, Puer Aeternus, a psychological study of the adult struggle with the paradise of childhood, Jungian analyst Marie-Louise von Franz extensively explores the Puer Aeternus. She writes that the negative aspects of the Puer Aeternus relate to a young man who lingers too long in adolescence, often coupled with excessive dependence on the mother. While a mother's instinct is to shield her child, prolonged sheltering hinders the child from confronting life's challenges as they mature. This avoidance may lead to a desire to return to the womb, giving rise to a mother complex. The puer is essentially a man-child resistant to growing up, dodging responsibility and expecting others, typically parents, to resolve all predicaments. Lacking enthusiasm for learning, he grapples with gaining a proper understanding of various aspects of life, frequently finding fault in everything and struggling with commitment in relationships or employment. He just wants to escape. However, the puer acknowledges the temporary nature of life. This recognition leads him to withhold wholehearted engagement in any experience. Understanding that conclusions bring disappointment and separation, he consistently readies himself to bid farewell. This ingrained anticipation of farewells inadvertently reinforces his beliefs. A typical pathological reaction of the puer is to train himself not to suffer. He does this by preemptively expecting suffering. He anticipates disappointment to avoid the emotional blow, essentially refusing to fully embrace life. While this may seem rational to him, excessive thinking becomes a malady. He becomes trapped in his hyperconscious reflections, constructing a self-imposed bubble that isolates him from life. Confronting the reality of mortality and the imperfect world poses a challenge for the pure entering life. It necessitates acknowledging his own mortality, a variation of the mythological theme where departing paradise symbolizes an archetypal maternal womb, leading to an awareness of incompleteness, corruptibility, and mortality. Despite the pure's occasionally detached demeanor, a rich fantasy life exists within. He may adopt a megalomaniacal mindset, perceiving himself as unique, a hidden genius, or the next great philosopher. However, he lacks tangible accomplishments. He becomes an artist without art, indulging in passive fantasies distinct from Jung's technique of active imagination. Daydreaming about success without visualizing failure can ironically make him more susceptible to failure. Jung describes the poor as leading a provisional life. This is due to the fear of getting stuck in an inescapable situation. Plans for the future dissolve into fantasies, and the poor craves independence and freedom, finding restrictions intolerable. The term provisional life describes an attitude detached from present reality. It is characterized by a belief that current circumstances are mere placeholders until the real thing arrives someday, a concept Jung termed the modern European disease of the merely imaginary life. The poor avoids commitment and responsibility, seeking refuge in the fantasy world for temporary comfort. He aspires to lofty heights, resembling Peter Pan, the boy who refuses to grow up, residing in Neverland, where people remain eternally young. This phenomenon is also known as the Peter Pan syndrome, increasingly prevalent in our modern age. The pure lacks a sense of identity, leading to feelings of fragmentation and worthlessness. To compensate, he pursues ecstatic experiences through drugs, alcohol, sex, sports, and daring adventures, beating inner depression and creating an illusion of selfhood. This relentless search for stability and harmony stems from an inner discontent. Living provisionally, the person becomes alienated from reality, spending time on fruitless fantasies. The ancient Greek fable of the astrologer who fell into a well illustrates the dangers of being so absorbed in thought that one loses touch with the immediate surroundings, reflecting the challenges faced by the poor. Despite possessing a vivid imagination, the pure struggles to translate these insights into action. They reside in an ethereal realm detached from the tangible realities of earthly life, resulting in the pure often encountering limited success in life. As per von Franz, a typical day for a poor involves rising at 10:30 a.m. They linger until lunch with a cigarette, succumbing to emotions and fantasies. Afternoon plans for work frequently get sidetracked by outings with friends and a romantic partner. Evening discussions on the meaning of life follow this. This routine repeats, resulting in a squandering of life's potential and inner richness. Lost in a cloud of fantasies, the pure fails to discover meaningful avenues for realization. Despite their capacity to assimilate knowledge and listen, the pure frequently falls short in applying the concepts learned. Groundedness in reality is lacking, and the transition from fantasy to action remains inaccessible. The pure's realization about adapting to reality often resides only in intellectual fantasy, not in practical implementation. Interestingly, the term human finds its origin in the Latin word humus, signifying earth. To be human implies humility, a down-to-earth perspective, and a connection to earthly experiences. This is a rich source of healing nutrients. Similar to Icarus, the pure disregards warnings about hubris. They fly too close to the sun, resulting in melted wings, falling from the sky, and drowning. Jung likens this to a provisional life, where one exists as a spectator. They experience events abstractly without true realization. The eternal child embodies various positive attributes, drawing spirituality from close contact with the unconscious. The pure is agreeable and radiates youthful charm. He sparks stimulating and profound conversations. Representing the divine child, he symbolizes newness, potential for growth, and hope for the future, an insight acknowledged by Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche views the child as the ultimate metamorphosis towards self-realization. Nietzsche writes, The child is innocence and forgetfulness, a new beginning, a game, a self-propelling wheel, a first motion, a sacred yes. For the game of creating, my brothers, a sacred yes to life is needed. The inner child concept pertains to that which emerges from the maturity of the adult. It's not a reversal to an immature state, but a progression towards wholeness. Everyone possesses an inner child, even older individuals who occasionally revisit a childlike state of innocence. The eternal youth lives in the moment, filled with wonder and playfulness, stimulating pure creativity. He is a yes-sayer, embodying life affirmation and integrating the heavenly kingdom into earthly existence. As individuals age, they transition into the world of the senex, the Latin term for an old man. This archetype, with positive attributes such as balance, grounding, patience, conscientiousness, and control, represents the wise old man. On the negative side, the senex may exhibit cynicism, rigidity, materialism, resistance to change, and a lack of humor. The senex stands in opposition to the pure archetype, with both considered opposite sides of the same coin. The pure dreams big, while the senex works hard. The balance between these archetypes varies from person to person, with both being essential for a psychologically healthy life. Jung himself, primarily a senex, engaged in tangible creative activities like sculpting, carving inscriptions, drawing mandalas, and creating the Red Book filled with images from the unconscious. Jung's approach to play during a challenging period involved retrospection. It led to a reconnection with his childhood memories, emphasizing the importance of the creative life within the inner child. Jung realized he had been neglecting his inner child, a humbling experience as he acknowledged the need to engage in childish games in his later years. Nevertheless, he began collecting stones and gradually constructing a miniature village. He devoted time to this building game every day after the noon meal until his patients arrived. If he finished his work early in the evening, he returned to continue building. During this activity, his thoughts were clarified, and he felt a wellspring of creativity, enthusiasm, and a sense of renewal. One of Jung's most ambitious senex play projects was the construction of the tower at Bollingen, a process spanning 12 years. This solitary place, nestled in nature near Lake Zurich, served as a retreat where Jung spent several months each year nourishing his soul. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry's The Little Prince is a widely known book featuring the puer aeternus archetype. Despite displaying typical characteristics of the eternal child, Saint-Exupéry was a remarkable writer and professional aviator who tragically died in a World War II airplane crash. The book, rooted in the imaginative world of children, has a dreamlike quality. The narrator begins by recounting an experience from childhood where he drew a picture of a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. Adults failed to understand and dismissed it as a hat. Frustrated, he gave up a potential career as a painter and chose to become a pilot. Throughout his life, he showed his drawing to grown-ups in search of true understanding, yet they always perceived it as a hat. It wasn't until an airplane accident in the desert that he found someone he could truly communicate with. This experience is meshed with his personal life, where he teetered on the brink of death due to thirst and encountered hallucinations. While trying to repair the plane, he heard an unusual voice saying, "If you please, draw me a sheep." It was the little prince descending from the stars. Presenting the hat drawing, the little prince expressed a preference for a sheep over a boa that had swallowed an elephant. This mystical encounter with the unconscious marked the first instance of someone understanding him. However, lacking the skill to draw a sheep, he repeatedly failed and ended up sketching a box, humorously claiming the desired sheep was inside it. This scenario symbolizes the conflict between inner and outer life demands, creating considerable tension. A common behavior of the eternal child, called puer, is stashing away plans in a box out of boredom and impatience, posing a significant danger. Taking something seriously and committing to it is crucial for the puer. This novella's initial section covers the entire issue of the puer aeternus. Saint-Exupéry hadn't fully adapted to the adult world, grappling with depression and disillusionment. His unconscious seemed to urge him to engage in the adult world, rather than perpetually escape into an unimaginative and mundane everyday existence, depicted metaphorically as a desert. This midlife crisis led to conscious absent-mindedness, where a small mistake could be life-threatening. The adult world, devoid of nature's enchantment and fairy tale magic, appeared utterly lifeless. Saint-Exupéry criticizes the emptiness, idiocy, and meaninglessness of adulthood, asserting that childhood life represents the true, artistic, and fantasy-filled existence. The rest, he contends, is an empty persona, chasing wealth and prestige, and losing one's true nature. The central problem is the lack of a bridge to integrate the true, imaginative life into adulthood. Saint-Exupéry's life reflects a struggle where his greater personality has been consumed by the mother figure, stifling life and hindering human development. Perpetually remaining in the protective shell of the mother prevents a transition into the adult world, resembling the devouring mother archetype, as seen in the Hindu goddess Kali. Saint-Exupéry avoids undertaking the hero's journey, symbolizing the elephant in the drawing as Africa's paramount hero. In contrast to other mythological parallels, the swallowed hero grapples to escape his predator. The elephant, marked by generosity, intelligence, taciturnity, irritable tendencies, and fits of rage appeased only by music, remarkably mirrors Saint-Exupéry's qualities. It embodies in his soul what he aspired to become, devoured by the devouring mother, regressive unconscious tendencies, and eventual death. Although Saint-Exupéry remained oblivious to this, von Franz suggests he came exceptionally close. Integrating of puer aeternus involves grounding oneself, not by maintaining a one-sided view of a fantasy life, but by exposing oneself to daily life, chores, and hard work. The pure must also merge with the crowd, taking on the role of the sheep in the box, albeit not without its dangers. A perilous situation serves as the antidote for a mother complex. Young men often detach from their mothers through collectivity, the initial step in the cure. Immersing oneself in society stimulates warmth, relatedness, and a sense of belonging. The second step involves ensuring the poor doesn't lose their identity in the crowd. Balancing social and spiritual life is crucial, as spending time alone establishes an indestructible foundation for self-realization. Nietzsche underscored this, stating, "When I am among the many, I live as the many do, and I do not think as I really think." Jung drew a parallel between the human lifespan and the sun's 12-hour passage, depicting various life phases. The initial half prioritizes bolstering the ego through work, education, and relationships. Only in the latter half, anchored in reality, does the focus shift to the inner world and the pursuit of individuation. An imbalance during this transition often signals the onset of a midlife crisis, a soul's plea for growth. Jung reflects on this and says that the significance of the morning undoubtedly lies in the development of the individual, our entrenchment in the outer world, the propagation of our kind, and the care of our children. This is the obvious purpose of nature. Whoever carries over into the afternoon the law of the morning, or the natural aim, must pay for it with damage to his soul. Just as surely as a growing youth who tries to carry over his childish egoism into adult life must pay for this mistake with social failure. To remedy the neurosis of the poor, Jung underlines the importance of work. This proves challenging for the eternal child, demanding the sacrifice of the wonders of the fantasy kingdom for a conventional life involving commitment and responsibility. It may seem like madness to the pure, involving letting go of one's specialness. The crucial step is to expel the devils without unintentionally banishing the angels. Striking this balance necessitates a focus on both the inner and outer worlds, aligning with the purpose of individuation. Through work, the pure has the potential to genuinely excel in reality, not just in fantasy. Although the specific job or desired path may be unclear, one must stick with any job and immerse oneself in the outer world. Kierkegaard terms this anxiety as the dizziness of freedom, the vertigo arising from choosing among infinite possibilities. The pure often switches jobs, quitting when it becomes dull, as working feels like a chore, contradicting the natural flow of energy. The pure acknowledges the struggle, attributing everything to laziness, but lacking the will to overcome it, leading to depression. Enthusiasm, hidden until the archetype of eternal youth is integrated, guides one toward areas of natural energy flow. However, routine inevitably surfaces in all work, even creative endeavors, leading the poor to complain. Jung advises against useless speculation on how to live and advocates for directly toiling the soil in front of us. By doing the next thing that needs to be done, individuals can go to their unique paths prescribed by the unconscious. In specific Native American rituals, men gather groups of young boys and lead them into the wilderness in the middle of the night. There, they undergo trials as part of their initiation into manhood, marking the beginning of the hero's journey. Successfully overcoming challenges, like metaphorically slaying a dragon, enables them to reintegrate into the community as men who have transitioned from childhood. Manhood is not merely a state but a badge of honor earned through autonomy, increased ego strength, and a sense of belonging, purpose, and meaning, qualities often lacking in a poor driven by a desire for safety and pleasure. Initiation encourages us to immerse ourselves in life's challenges. In modern times, tribal initiations are lacking, and many men opt for alternatives such as military service or the gym bro mentality. Some hope for life to whisk them away from the mundane, imagining scenarios like being stranded on an island where survival requires building shelter and hunting for food. This prospect is both terrifying and exhilarating. Psychologically, they await an archetype to activate in the psyche and guide them through life. For young women, marriage and childbearing often signify the conquering of the puella. There's a sacrificial moment where, to embody the archetype of the mother, she must sacrifice the archetype of Aphrodite. This means accepting changes in her body and feelings post-childbirth. While this significant responsibility can sometimes lead to the death of the puella, it doesn't imply that a mother or childless woman cannot embody the puella. Dreams play a pivotal role in integrating the puella. When the inner child appears in dreams, it exists both behind and ahead of us simultaneously. The silly shadow behind us pulls us back into childish tendencies, while the child God ahead signifies renewal and the potential for continual growth. Changing our ego attitude influences our dreams. Documenting, interpreting, drawing, and coloring them helps bring imaginary figures into reality, fostering a transformation in the unconscious. Dream images can be utilized in active imagination, where you consciously enter your inner picture, reside within it, and transform it to breathe new life into it. Dreams guide what to do with our lives, and there's no need for concern when we don't fully grasp a dream, as the dream comprehends us.